The world does not rest on your shoulders. It rests on God's. In Genesis, we find a fascinating case study about rest. When God created the world, the Bible tells us that he made it in 6 days, and on the seventh day, God himself rested, not because he had to, but to set an example for us. But consider for a moment what this meant for Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were created on the 6th day. So their very first day, their first day enjoying all of creation, was actually the 7th day. It was the day of rest, and that's how God started his walk with Adam and Eve, by taking time to rest, for them to delight in his gifts and in his presence, and defy any sort of expectations of productivity. When we rest, we delight in the gifts of God, and we defy the expectations of the world. We take time during rest to just enjoy the gifts that God has given to us, to reflect on how amazing it is that God loves and cares for us so much that he doesn't want us to just continue to throw ourselves into work, but instead to enjoy the gifts that he has given to us. There are certain things that can only happen during those margin spaces. Creativity thrives when we're not pushed to the limit. And when we do that, we're also defying the expectations of the world. We're reminding ourselves that the world does not rest on our shoulders. We're reminding ourselves that we, in fact, are not God. And there's immense freedom in that. Remember the words of Jesus. He said, "Take my yoke upon you, for my burden is easy. My burden is light, and you will find rest for your souls." God knows that the world doesn't rest on our shoulders, and yet we can't help trying to take some of those things upon ourselves, trying to take all of the expectations of productivity. We're acting very often as though the world depended on us and the things that we do. Rest invites us to push back on that invasion of identity, to remind ourselves that God is the one who is ultimately in control. We delight in the gifts of God, and we defy the world's expectations when we rest. So I want to invite you to take just a minute and schedule some time for rest. What's that going to look like for you this week? And you don't have to take on a full day of rest right from the get-go. Take just a minute. Take a moment to spend reflecting on the gifts that God has given to you. Try to aim for 15 minutes this week, one day out of 7, and then start to grow from there. But first, take out your phone, open up your calendar, and schedule it. Schedule when is going to be that 15-minute block where you are intentionally not going to be productive, when you're intentionally going to defy the expectations of the world and delight in the gifts that God has given you. Take a moment to schedule that, because when we schedule it, it'll happen. And then we're able to fully delight and enjoy the gifts that God gives to us through rest.